Hey guys, this is Nadia and I am here again for another video. I'm actually sitting on a staircase near to a Thai restaurant that I love to visit. It's right next door to my Pilates class, which I'm going to next. But I wanted to have this conversation with you, have a chat with you, share a little bit more of my story in these short videos. It's a little noisy here, so hopefully you can hear me. And I'll try to speak as clearly as possible and pronounce my words as clearly as I can. But we're on a busy road here. So this episode, I wanted to talk all about rebuilding my faith and not religion. And so this is something that's really near and dear to my heart because it's been such a journey of coming back to God after at least 2 years or more of feeling distant from Him, of distancing myself because I just didn't want anything to do with Him. I just felt so discouraged in life and so brokenhearted and felt so much hard things were put into our lives and on my plate, and I didn't know how to navigate that. And I felt, I guess naively, that I would be protected from all of that once I became a Christian, once I was following God into all my heart, once I was living fiercely for Him and serving Him through ministry and just using my writing for His glory. I used to be a journalist in Bermuda, and one of the things I did out of service, but for a long time I didn't even get paid for it, was to write for the religion column. So every week I would do an extra story, and that was a way for me to give back, serve, and to share these stories of people that were honoring God with their lives. I also tried and had a faith-based magazine for about 2 years. It was called The Spiritual Go-Getter, and had some amazing women on the cover and that were interviewed, and it was really inspiring for me in some ways. But in terms of forward movement, I saw very little following and reading, and I just felt like it was all for nothing. It was just so much work, and it was draining my time, my energy, and I just felt like it was not moving. The needle was just never moving. I was barely getting any email subscribers. Every time a new publication would come out, I was giving it just my all and felt so depleted after that whole ordeal. And I guess part of me, as the little entitled girl, I think all of us have that little kid inside of us that throws like a tantrum when things don't go our way. And it wasn't like an outward tantrum, it was just like an inward hurt, an inward pain that I didn't know how to navigate. So long story short, I'm going to be answering a few questions in this video, and I really hope it gives clarity as to where I am now and how I've decided to move forward in my relationship with God. And I hope that it will be an encouragement to you. So the first question is, what's your relationship with God like right now? So I moved to Southeast Asia, and where I am specifically, there are so many different faiths and a lot of spiritualism. And I think for a while, I felt like it's okay as long as I have a relationship with God, I don't have to call myself Christian. But I think deep down that probably didn't sit well with me, just because of the fact that I grew up in a traditional Christian household, Christian community. And I felt like I was maybe just being a little too flip-floppy. I was trying to take the good things and not allowing myself to navigate the hard things, and not realizing that the hard things actually bring about character refinement and strengthen you in ways that you don't even realize and that you're not even prepared for. And so for me, that was a humbling thing. I had to realize that every single challenge I went through wasn't for no reason, that God was actually bringing about those situations for my betterment. It just was really hard to see at the time. There was just so much pain and hurt and bitterness and disappointment and heartbreak, really. I just felt like people were misunderstanding me. I felt like people weren't seeing me. I felt so alone in the world, even in my marriage, and I felt lost. And so where my relationship is with God now is it's in a place of slow rebuilding. And so for me, it feels like one small step forward at a time. It's just literally journaling with Him. That's been a safe space for me in the morning, journaling and sharing my thoughts, sharing my hopes, sharing my dreams, allowing myself to dream again. And then it's also going to church. So we've made a commitment to go to church more regularly now as a family. And our son, he's 6, almost 7, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't have any friends at church. It's not a predominantly English-speaking church, although they do part of the sermon in English. And so because of that, he hasn't really made any friends. We haven't really built community. And so right now we're in the hunt for a new church. We went to actually a new church last week, And the good thing is that's filled with expats. I know that's usually you want to be around the locals, but I think the language barrier was the biggest challenge. They're lovely and amazing, and the worship was incredible, but the language barrier prevented us from making friends. Last week we visited this expat church, and I think we'll go again this week. And hopefully we can make that a regular habit and just continue to have time with God and build fellowship. What confused or disappointed you about church? So even before my whole situation with my own personal challenge and just feeling depleted and exhausted, even before going through that situation, we had almost like a divorce of our church back home. And we are from a small island. It was a very big growing church for the size of our island, but there was a big falling out. Long story short, the pastor went one way and another pastor took over and went a different way. It felt like a divorce, in my opinion, because I went to church every single week religiously for many years. I think maybe at least 5 or 6 years. And then it felt like this divorce happened. And I'm a child of divorce, so I know what that feels like. And it feels mom's over here, dad's over here, and you don't know which side to choose. You're in the middle and you're trying to navigate the situation. You don't have all the information because you're not privy to every single thing that goes on in that relationship, but you just feel so lost. Our pastor was such a dynamic preacher, and I really struggled to connect with the new pastor and the message. Just didn't know how to grow within that environment. It felt a little bit more stale and just harder to connect with. Long story short, I went through that whole situation with the complete breakdown of our church. Me and my husband started looking for other churches. It was maybe 6 to 9 months visiting different churches, not really feeling like they met all of our needs. Some didn't have children's programs and that kind of thing, so we were just lost. And then COVID happened and everything was online for a little while, and so we were watching sermons online. I found an awesome church thanks to a friend who gave me that recommendation. But I was watching Transformation Church with Michael Todd and just really found him to be a dynamic preacher and real and authentic. And I really loved that ministry. And so that's what I did for a while. And then we found another church back home that we went to consistently for maybe about 6 months. But then we relocated internationally and had to start all over again. What left me confused or disappointed was I had to come to the understanding and the realization that a pastor is not God. And my relationship has to be with God and not a church and not a pastor, because at the end of the day, things can fall apart. Like, pastors are not perfect. They make mistakes. They fall short. They're just like us. They're human. They miss the mark. And our job as individuals is to get closer to God. And sometimes the imperfect nature of people within the church or even leaders within the church can leave us feeling disillusioned and confused, and it can be a barrier to our own personal walk with God. And so I had to start to separate church, although I love church and I love the fellowship, but I had to separate church from my relationship with God. At the end of the day, and I've come to this realization, I could spend a Saturday morning 30 minutes at a beach on any day of the week and feel closer to God than I could if I went to a 2-hour church service. In some cases, God is not only in a church. You can access him with a pure heart from anywhere. And so that's what I've been learning and trying to lean into as I continue my faith walk and faith journey. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is, what's one thing you are learning about God's grace? I have really learned that I am so imperfect and I fall short so much of the time in my own life. I feel like I relate myself and my kind of distancing from God with what happens with my son sometimes. I have 2 kids, and sometimes it feels my son, he wants candy or he wants snacks or he wants TV that's no good for him. And I have to say no. Even though I love him, I have to say no because that's not what's best for him to become the man or boy or teenager that I want him to become. And so it's the same thing with God. And what I realize is, okay, I didn't get exactly what I wanted in that situation. And yes, I threw a tantrum, a spiritual heart tantrum in some ways, or maybe it just put a fear in me about trying and spending so much energy on something. It definitely put that fear in me. But I don't know the full story, and I don't know what it is that God's trying to bring me to and how he's trying to shape and mold me into the woman that he wants me to become. And so it's about trust and surrender. It's about knowing that I am not the authority. I don't know everything. I'm not God, and I cannot see the future. And it's literally about me in this period and stage in my life, loving him enough to believe that even though this part of my journey has been hard and much of my journey has felt hard, I can still trust him and that his intentions for me are good. When I step back from my own pride and ego and I actually look at God through a sense of gratitude, like, I don't even know what he's protected me from. The people that he's allowed to come and go from my life that maybe actually were there to harm me or to gossip about me, or just so many things that I know for a fact probably could have been a lot worse, and I survived somehow. So I think with that said, I'm in a stage of trying to remember to be thankful because I have a roof over my head. I don't have every single thing figured out in my life, but I have skills and I have passion and I have creative talents and I have a family that's extremely supportive, not only my husband, who has been really supportive in this period, but my family back home. My mom is always thinking of me and being generous and helping where there's gaps with everything that I'm going through right now. And so I'm just so grateful. We have so many things to look forward to in this season. And so trying to shift from being stuck and bitter to being thankful and looking forward to the future and looking forward to what story God is trying to write in my life, and just trusting that it's going to be really good and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be hard. But if we don't journey through the hard things, we're not going to develop the character needed to sustain that beautiful part of our story. And so I hope this message or these questions serve to inspire or even just help you to feel seen in whatever season you're in right now. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm out here and I have no gear. I'm literally just holding my hand, my little shaky hand, and trying to share this message with you. So I hope it was of some value, and I can't wait to talk to you in the next video.